Hi guys, welcome back. I'm here with another video, and in case you're new here, hi, my name is Denise, and I like to make astrology videos about how astrology works in real life. I'm here for you every single week with a new video, so I would suggest you subscribe to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about money. We're going to be talking about the second house. I'm very excited for this video because I think it is a really important untapped resource in our chart that we can really begin to understand if we just study the sign and the ruler of the sign of our second house. So let's get into the video, guys. First, I'm going to go into the meaning of the second house with a kind of interesting meaning that I really hadn't thought of, but if I think about it, it really makes a lot of sense. But that might be new to some of you in case you've never thought of this meaning of the second house. Then I'm going to talk about what it would be like to be a second houser. So if you have a lot of planets in the second house, then you're a second houser. We're going to talk about that, what that can mean. And then I'm going to touch on a few planets in the second house and what that could mean for you. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you some tips that can help you connect with your second house and really tap into those resources that are there for you in the second house. So the second house is a house of resources, and it's not just the money that we're born with, like money that we're born into, but it's also the things that we have at our disposal that will help us to survive in the world. Anything that could help us to survive materially, that is found in this second house. So altogether, it's the house of resources. The sign and placement of the planet that rules your second house can tell you a bit about how you'll go about earning money. And the sign itself, just the sign by itself, can give you a general understanding of how you feel about money and your ability to gain it for yourself. And if you're able to blend the sign of your second house with the planet and the placement of that planet, that'll give you a real idea of your potential earning power. So overall, what does it rule? It rules your personal wealth, what you came into the world with, like what you were born into. It also rules your income. It rules your manner of obtaining wealth, so what you do to make a living. And remember that making a living is not the same thing as a calling. If you're fortunate enough to have your calling be the way that you make a living, then that's a separate thing. But sometimes you just gotta get those bills paid. This is the money that you make to get your bills paid, not really the legacy that you're leaving behind, unless your legacy is your money, which could happen. Some people are fortunate enough to have a connection between their second house and their midheaven, and that when I see that happen, I'm just like so jealous of those people, because you guys have it really simple. You have a really clear-cut path towards your calling because it's going to pay you. The second house is also the house of your belongings, so all of the things that you have at your disposal, because think about it, the things that you own, you could potentially sell them to get more resources. So it includes all of your belongings. Some people would say all of your belongings except for your house, because the house belongs in the fourth house, but that's neither here nor there for me. It also rules debt, so anything that has to do with money is going to be in the second house. So the money that you have and the money that you owe, because the money that you owe is related to the money that you have. You don't have it, you owe it. It also rules giving and receiving, how you feel about that, how loose you are with your money, how you spend your money, and how I totally said spend like I was Sean Connery. Sorry about that. And it also, the most interesting meaning that I found for the second house, because anytime I make a video, I like to go into like my really good textbooks and be like, let me make sure that I know what the hell I'm talking about, and that I'm giving people the most accurate and thorough information available. And so I went into my little book and I found that it ruled freedom and liberty. And trust me, I'm a Capricorn rising, so I very much believe that the money that you have equals the freedom that you have. Because if you don't have a lot of money, then you're kind of tied to the job that is going to put food in your belly. So I've always thought that freedom was tied to money, but I never knew that astrologically freedom and liberty were found in the second house. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So that's pretty cool. Really, people who say they don't care about money are people who don't care about freedom. And when I think of freedom traditionally, I think of Uranus, I think of the planet Sagittarius, maybe even Aquarius. And I've found a lot that Sagittarius people are kind of money oriented. And the reason for, I'm a Sagittarius, and the reason for that now is very clear to me. It's because through money and your finances, you'll be able to have the freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do. So I thought that was a really important connection. So what do all of these things have in common, really? What do all the things that I just mentioned, what do they have in common? It's really all about resources. It's resources that inform who we are. So it dips into that first house. The second house kind of dips into there. So the resources that you have to kind of show who you are, that first house. That's what the second house is. So what I like to do with the houses is talk about where would the house be? If it was a physical place that you could visit, where would the second house be? Like what building, what location could you find the second house in? I think that the second house would be Shark Tank, that show, that TV show Shark Tank with all the investors. That's what I think the second house would be, because you are essentially showing the world what it is that you have that the world is going to buy from you. What are they going to give you money for? So it's basically like Shark Tank. So who would open the door? If you went to Shark Tank, who would open the door for you? Essentially, I was just like, well, you know, Mark Cuban, he's the guy from Shark Tank. Or maybe Richard Branson, that guy from Virgin Mobile. Anybody who is a self-made millionaire sort of dude, they're very second housey. And whenever I try to connect with the different houses, I like to think of a person who reminds me of that place and who would kind of guide me towards that house. And who is better to guide you towards a second house endeavor than a person who, you know, by their bootstraps, that saying, really transformed their lives and was able to gain a lot of resources just from the things that they had, like whatever it was that they had. Oftentimes it's a lot of intelligence that they use and using their own resources in order to gain more. And last I said Gary Vee, because he's always talking about money and investments and all of that. So okay, so now talking about planets, what planets in the second house mean. Essentially, if you have a lot of planets in the second house, then finances are going to be very important to your life. You're a second houser. And when it comes to stelliums or stellia, as my Virgo friends will say, I like to use the more common stelliums because I'm a common lady, 11th house. So whenever you have a stellium, it could really indicate where you are. Well, it doesn't really indicate, it indicates where you spend a lot of your energy, because you know all the planets are your energy, and when you're expending a great deal of energy in a particular house, like the second house, then that means that you're going to be focused on that. And oftentimes your career or your calling, your life path, you know, your life's work is going to revolve around not just your midheaven, but really a stellium. A stellium could really point to your work. I've been doing a lot of charts lately of people who have fifth house planets, and I noticed that no matter what sign it's in, the fifth house people, that you have some form of creative career. And that is true across the board. And I had a friend who was a banker, and he was an intense second house stellium dude. And I think that's really interesting. You know, second house people are going to end up working with money in one way or another. This could be banking, this could be being a cashier, anything that has to do with money and finances. So what did the different planets mean in the second house? Essentially the malefics, so your Saturn, your Pluto, your Uranus, those aren't great news for your second house, but when it comes to Saturn, you do know that with time, if you're able to heed those Saturn lessons, then you can gain a lot of responsibility and structure wherever it is that you have your Saturn. So Saturn you could grow into. If you have a Saturn in the second house, even though you might struggle financially or you might have been born into money, it depends, you will be able to develop your finances over time, because Saturn is a planet that matures you over time. If you have Uranus, this is going to be like shakeups, and you might have money coming and going and you just never know. It's just like a coin toss with Uranus. And when it comes to Neptune, there could be elements of delusion. You might not be very clear on your finances. You might have like delusional ideas of like grand things that you're going to invest, and then it just doesn't turn out and you just can't see it because you have Neptune there. Wherever Neptune is placed, you're going to have a cloudy judgment. So pay attention to where those big three bad boys are located in your chart. Oh, and Pluto. Pluto brings about suffering, but remember that Pluto is transformation as well. So you might suffer from your lack of resources, but there's real strength and potential. Pluto is a very strong planet, and I really like to connect Pluto with money too, because think of power, you know, money and power are related. So if you have Pluto in the second house, I think it's a really good placement. So what about the benefics, your Jupiter, your Venus? Jupiter and Venus, if you guessed it, they're benefics. They're going to mean that your money flow might be much easier than people with the malefics in there. So yeah, essentially those are the planets in the second house. So now let's talk about some tips that can help you connect with your second house and really tap into whatever resources you have hidden in there. So first of all, ask yourself, what is the sign on the cusp of your second house, and do you have planets in it? So first, you're gonna study the sign itself, and this will tell you your general view of how you'll earn money and how you feel about money altogether. So what kind of sign is it? Is it a more money-oriented sign like Taurus, like Leo, Capricorn? The earth signs tend to be more oriented towards safety, material security. If you have a fire sign in your second house, this is more about, independence and going your own way, making your money in your own creative ideation, by your own bootstrap sort of thing. If you have it in the water signs, that's not excellent because you might not really think about money in terms of safety like the earth signs would, but money is more an emotional thing to you, and you might have emotional attachments to money, or you might be sensitive about money and about your earning potential. You might not be too secure about your earning potential. And air signs work with money. Mercury is associated with sales, so any of the Mercury ruled signs like Gemini would be all right there. Next, you need to study the ruler of the sign and where it is located. The place it is located could tell you kind of where you will have your earning potential come out. So the second way that you can connect with your second house is really take stock of your resources. And I mean your inner resources. So what skills do you have that can be turned into money for you? What skills do you have that you could sell and profit from? You'd be surprised at things that you'll be able to do that you could sell. Like for example, I'm really good at astrology and I've loved it forever, and Aquarius rules my second house, so unique ways of making money. So I have made this YouTube channel and I've been able to get a lot of clients and make some money that I never really thought that I would be able to do, but I am, because I, tapped into my resources. What can I do? I'm a pretty good writer. That's what I studied in school. I was an English teacher, and I was like, maybe I can make this happen. Maybe you can. Maybe you can too. Study the sign that is on your second house and the ruler of that second house. For me, it's Saturn. My Saturn is in the first house. So I myself have to go out there and do projects that are going to support that second house endeavor of mine that is Aquarian in nature. And then you really have to ask yourself, are you using those tools, those resources that you have in your second house, those abilities that you have within yourself, are you using them in a way that is profitable for you? You'd be surprised the creative ways that you can make money if you sit down and really ask yourself what it is that you have to offer the world. Everybody has something to offer, and you really have to gain confidence in your ability to sell yourself, essentially, and sell the things that you're able to do for others. And don't be embarrassed of charging for your services, because time is money, baby. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope that you liked it. Do not forget to give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. It helps spread the good news of astrology throughout the world. I will see you in the next one. I'm really looking forward to my next series. I'm gonna do like the dark side of the signs. I'm really excited to do this because I'm always, spreading love about all the signs and how much I love Scorpio and Aquarius and Leo, and I love everybody, and I do. But I see you, Scorpio. I see you, Leo. I see, the dark side of the signs as well. And I think that it's important to talk about that and to do it in a lighthearted manner. I don't like roasting anybody because, I don't know, it's just not my thing. But there are certain crimes or sins that the signs are more prone to committing, and that's what the next series is going to be about. If you're excited about that, and if you made it until the end of the video, thank you. Let me know in the comments. And okay, now for real, I'm leaving. Bye. See you in the next one.